And now to immigration. The U.S. Senate is set to officially begin a rare, open-ended debate. And it centers on the future of dreamers, those brought here illegally without documentation as children. They had been protected under the DACA program that President Trump is trying to end. Lisa Desjardins begins our coverage.
There's no reason why we should not reach a bipartisan solution this week.
In the first minutes of the day, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell talked of a quick resolution on the fate of dreamers, despite the obstacles.
Yesterday, a number of my colleagues announced a reasonable proposal that I believe is our best chance to actually make a law.
McConnell threw his weight behind that legislation, introduced by Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley and 5 other conservative-leaning Republicans. It mirrors President Trump's own proposal. The so-called Secure and Succeed Act offers a 10 to 12-year path to citizenship for an estimated 1.8 million dreamers brought to the U.S. illegally as children. It also includes $25 billion for a border wall and other security measures, and it limits family-based immigrant visas to spouses and unmarried children under 18. The bill also would increase punishment for those who re-enter the country illegally after deportation. In Senate hallways today, Grassley spoke with a family who had concerns about the bill. To reporters, he stressed it's the one measure right now with President Trump's approval.
I think we have a responsibility to listen to all concerns, but there's one bottom line, and that bottom line is, what will the president sign or not sign? So we have had the president say that he would sign our piece of legislation.
But the bill does not have the Democratic support it needs. Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois criticized the cuts to legal immigration.
Today, all across this country and all across the world, we are saluting this amazing 17-year-old girl and the skill that she developed. But let's remember, Chloe Kim's story is the story of immigration in America. Chloe Kim's story is a story of people who are come to these shores determined to make a life.
The tension showed as the floor debate snagged.
I would ask consent that at 2:15 today, the motion to proceed to H.R. 2579 be agreed to.
McConnell moved to start off debate with an amendment that would crack down on so-called sanctuary cities. That's a proposal Democrats dislike, and their leader, Chuck Schumer, said no.
Let's get this debate started on the right foot, so I object to the leader's request.
And thus, leaders walked into the afternoon in legislative limbo, with no leading bill on the floor and no agreement on where to start. Schumer pointed to the need for compromise.
We recognize we're not going to get everything we want. We hope the president and Republicans realize the same.
Meanwhile, President Trump started the day tweeting that this is the last chance to replace DACA, the program that protects dreamers. And he sounded optimistic as he met with Republican and Democratic senators on trade.
Right, I think we have a chance to do DACA very bipartisan. I think that can happen. And
the president initially set a March 5th deadline for ending the DACA program. A federal judge has at least temporarily set that deadline aside. And this afternoon, another federal judge, this time in Brooklyn, agreed and also ruled that the president's deadline for DACA should be frozen and that the program should continue at least temporarily as it works through the court.
So back to the Senate, Lisa, I heard you call it legislative limbo. Are things as stuck as they look?
Yes, they absolutely are. I would describe the atmosphere today as singular. It's a frenzy of activity, Judy, with no forward motion. And let's break down exactly what we know it could happen. The next time for a vote because of Senate process is tonight at midnight. I have sources telling me that is unlikely at this time. But that means the next votes would be tomorrow. Now, the Republicans say they want to finish this week. That generally means Thursday. That's 2 days from now. But the two parties, as we had in the piece, they disagree over exactly where to begin. So there are some very big challenges to even starting debate tomorrow. One beacon of hope came actually from the White House and Mark Short, who's a legislative aide there. And he told me he does think there are some amendments that can make it to the floor tomorrow. What those are, we'll have to see.
All right, so there are several different plans up for consideration. Give us a sense of the substance of what they're looking at.
Right. I think what's good to think about in this debate right now is what the problems are. First,
First, they can't agree on how large they should go with this bill. There are many still arguing that this bill should focus only on DACA and border security. The president and many Republicans want to expand that to include the visa lottery, which they want to end, and also family migration, which they want to limit. So let's look at the problems if you start from there. Problem number one, Judy, is that the key bills themselves have still not been drafted. That includes the president's bill, which is being led by Senator Grassley, which we mentioned. We expect that out any minute, but we haven't seen it yet. Same thing on the other side, the Coons-McCain kind of more moderate bill. We haven't seen that text either. Bigger problem, no bill. None of these seem to have 60 votes. Now, the beacon of hope tonight is that there are small bipartisan groups meeting all across the Senate. And in fact, they're kind of in such a tough position. They don't really want reporters saying who's meeting with who. They're trying to be as quiet as possible, but it just shows what they're up against and that they really have not found a way to get 60 votes on anything.
So it sounds like they are feeling some pressure on themselves to get something done. But it also sounds, Lisa, like this is pretty unusual to be in this sort of open debate situation.
Incredibly unusual. I sat down with the Senate historian, Betty Coed, today for probably the most elucidating conversation I had all day. And she says, you know, our job is to look at precedent, but because we don't even know the shape of this debate yet, we're not sure where to look for a comparison. And she said history is going to have to judge this later because we're not even sure where they're going yet.
So is it kind of a test for the Senate, people watching to see whether they can actually do this?
I think after this very, let's say, up and down year, this might be the biggest test for the Senate. I think in the next 2 days, we're going to see a Senate that either has a complete breakdown of legislative process over an issue, DACA, that most Americans agree on, or they will have a breakthrough. Today, it was looking like a breakdown, but they have a few more days. If people who are paying attention to this issue, any part of this issue, these are very important days to watch.
And there are a lot of folks on the outside watching really closely and letting their voices be heard. Lisa Desjardins, thanks very much.
You're welcome.